Hello, happy Monday. Okay, let's just get centered so we can have this conversation. We're going to be talking about addictions today, and I want to be super clear about what an addiction is. Most of us think of an addiction as something more obvious. We've got an addiction to alcohol, drugs, food, sugar, things like that. And that's an obvious addiction in the way that we look at addictions in this country, especially. It's a substance that you cannot stop yourself from doing. People who are smokers often feel that they are addicted to the smoking, to the nicotine, to the other additive ingredients in cigarettes. And then they can't stop themselves, even though they know better that this isn't helping them. They can't stop themselves. There's a chemical reaction within the body. There's a physiological response that is forcing them to run off and do this thing that they know is hurting them potentially. So I want to talk about addictions in a broader sense, and the idea that there is a known quantity or a known item that is causing a psychological as well as physiological reaction that is setting off a flurry of either endorphins or chemical reactions that is causing you to keep going back to something to reinforce and do that thing or that activity or that belief or that thought again. And a lot of these addictions, and I'm going to get deeper into examples of what these are, and I'm going to talk about what I find to be the top 5 hidden addictions that are causing thyroid and anxiety issues. So most of the clients that we work with are high-performing women. They're women who get stuff done. They're the women you go to ask for help because they seem to have the connections, the answers, the solutions for what you're looking for. But they're also women who are struggling underneath all of that. They're kind of like the duck on the water where they seem like they've got their stuff together, but underneath they're frantically paddling away because they are struggling with this alternative shift that the body is making to try to manage the situations that they're in. They're successful because they get stuff done. They're successful because they push through and they're able to accomplish many things. However, they're also sacrificing themselves in the process, and they are hurting themselves in the long run because they're not utilizing the best ways to handle stressful situations. And when we are out of balance with our stress and our body isn't managing the stress properly, what happens is our central nervous systems go into that fight or flight response. We have an imbalanced, dysfunctional system. And there's a lot of addictions, as I'm using this in a slightly broader sense, that are causing a lot of those problems, which then turn around and cause more anxiety, cause more thyroid issues, hormone imbalance. So let's talk about the 5 addictions that I see causing problems with especially high-performing women when it comes to thyroid, hormone imbalance, anxiety. The flip side of anxiety is depression, apathy. And let's talk about what those 5 things are. So the first one is the more obvious ones, right? So we've got the alcohol, the drugs, but there's also food and sugar, salty foods that fall into this category as well. These are things that you find yourself just eating to the bottom of the bag and didn't even realize that you were on the last chip. These are the things that we buy because we're utilizing them to make ourselves feel better in the moment. And there's a physiological response the body has to this, but there's also a psychological response. And I want to look at these in a broader sense and call this category number 1, numbing agents. Because whether it's a drug, prescription or otherwise, it's alcohol, it's marijuana, it's cannabis, it's CBD oil, it's sugar, it's microdosing with psychedelics. All of these things I'm going to put into one category as a numbing agent. Now, some of these items you can absolutely use in small amounts and actually see benefits from. However, what we see a lot of people doing is masking the fact that they're using these as numbing agents. They're trying to push down an emotion. They're trying to stop feeling a certain way. They're trying to be numb to what's going on in their life rather than managing, governing, experiencing whatever it is that they're feeling. They're trying to numb that feeling through cake, through ice cream, through potato chips, through prescription drugs, through non-prescription drugs, through alcohol, and we're trying to make ourselves feel better. So if you hear yourself saying things like, God, I have to have some chips. Can't wait for some alcohol. Can't wait to have a drink. There's a point where you're utilizing that particular substance to make yourself feel better in the moment because something is too much or not enough. We don't feel like we're getting the support, the love, the attention that we need. We're not getting the ROI for our efforts. Or we're just so stressed out, we don't know how to relax. So we're leaning onto things that otherwise could be helpful, like CBD oil. It could be incredibly helpful. But if you were leaning on that and need that every single night in order to relax or to fall asleep, there becomes a problem. There's an addiction, there's a pattern that's evolved that your body can't do what it was designed naturally to do on its own. So there's the first ones, the more obvious ones, right? The second one is being busy. That's an actual addiction. There's a psychological and biological, physiological response to being busy. I want you to think about it. If you're not busy, do you think, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Are you worried? Are you the kind of person who goes to a yoga class or a meditation class or a sound bath and you feel great during the class? And like the second you get in the car, you're flipping the guy off next to you, you're cutting someone off, you're yelling at somebody in the car, you're already frantic about what tomorrow looks like. So you can only be calm in the moment of the activity. You have to do an activity like that in order to calm yourself down, but you can't hold the calm. You can't hold the balance. You can't hold the response. What ends up happening is your subconscious, your hardwiring, your normal is pushing you back to what your normal pattern is, which is being busy, being more frantic, right? Being in a situation where you have something to do. Have you ever looked at your schedule and gotten anxious because you look at your schedule for the next day and you don't have a lot scheduled? There's actually a worrisome component to it. I'm watching The Bear. If you guys have been watching that series, I'm watching The Bear, and it's based on a stereotypical restaurant situation. And it's more of a low-end restaurant where it's kind of a grab-and-go sandwich kind of busy place. And then the same chef is now trying to run a high-end fine dining location. And there was a conversation that he was having with a bunch of other people in the industry. And I used to own restaurants, so I know what this feels like, where he gets more panicky or more anxious on the nights before he has the full day off because he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to just be. And when you're trying to be busy all the time, one of the addictions you may have is the constant busy. I have to be busy. So you get yourself involved with things that aren't necessarily yours to be involved with. So there's this higher level of stress all the time going on, being busy, 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 busy. And the busy isn't necessarily supporting you or helping you or actually accomplishing anything. It's just being busy. So you sign up for lots of things. You get on committees. You sign up for to pick up the kids at school all the time, even though somebody else could be doing it. You're in charge of extra activities at work. You find yourself volunteering for things. You actually make dinner for people when they're not your people to make dinner for. You're constantly doing things to be busy. And without the busy, you don't know who you are. So there's an identity conflict going on there. And this actually can set off a psychological as well as a physiological response in the body when you don't have the busy. And that's the body trying to tell you, hey, I need to learn how to not be busy. I need to learn how to just be. To calm the system down, give the central nervous system the okay that it's all right to relax and let go. So being busy, I want you to watch for that one. Number 3 is very closely tied to being busy, but it's a whole nother level. It's being in chaos. This idea that if things are not chaotic, then you don't think something is right. The idea if you've already got things planned and everything's okay, you start to create things in your own mind. You start to do what if scenarios. What if this goes wrong? What if this goes wrong? What if this goes wrong? And you actually create an energy, a frantic vibration that causes a series of chaos. And then it creates what it is that you're used to, which is the chaos, being out of control. And that's actually something that you thrive in. So for those of you especially who grow up in environments where there was no system, there was no bedtime, there was no dinner time, there was no consistency other than the fact that nothing was consistent, and you don't know how to flow with that, and you're in a chaotic situation most of the time, you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, and then you create a situation, whether you realize it or not, for the shoe to drop. There's an addiction to the chaotic energy. And you create situations, you get involved with situations, you get involved with people who create this energetic chaos. There's an addiction to that because without it, you get confused. So once you start looking at just the people around you, is there always someone in your life who's creating a situation of chaos? Is there always something going on where you have to step in and you have to get involved and you have to help control the situation? Do you find a lot of your friends or family members that you're constantly in connection with these chaotic people? Or perhaps you're the chaotic person. And I don't mean that you're enjoying that. What I mean is that you're used to it. And when we're used to something, our subconscious wants to stay with it because it's familiar, and familiar is safe. Even though it's working against us in our conscious world, we look around and we look at that and we say, oh no, this is not helping us. When you realize you're constantly in that energy, you're constantly in that chaos, you have to start asking yourself, how am I participating in attracting and keeping this chaos around me at all times? Do you have a moment where if something isn't chaotic, you start to wonder what you've done wrong? And I'm asking that for more of a subconscious. You may be having this conscious conversation, but the subconscious starts looking around and saying, what have I done wrong? It seems too peaceful. It seems too quiet. I'm expecting this to be chaotic. And then what happens is you actually will find a way to create chaos without even realize you're doing it. There's an addiction to that. There's also a spike in adrenaline, and there's a spike in the chemicals in the body when the chaos starts, because it's something you know, it's something that's familiar. You go back into fight or flight. And there's actually a moment of elation when that happens because all of the systems rush. So for the moment, you actually feel normal. You feel good. You feel the rush. Number 4. So we've got numbing agents, being busy, chaos. Let's look at number 4. This is when we are in perfectionism syndrome. This is also known as overthinking, where we're in this perfectionism. We have to create a situation where everything is perfect, because if it's not perfect, then it's wrong. And we're so used to the downplay, the rush of adrenaline, the rush that happens when it goes wrong and it's not perfect, that we actually lean into looking and hyper-focusing on all the ways that what we're doing is bad, is wrong, and where we're not doing the right thing. People who lean into the idea that they're perfectionists, oh, I'm a perfectionist, that's why I'm so hard on myself. That's a way to try to push this actually trauma response to the side and not manage it or deal with it or learn how to dissolve it, because it's part of our identity. And what's part of our identity is something we will lean harder into and hold on to, because that's who we think we are. And if we understand who we are, then we feel in control. But if you are clinging to the idea, the identity that you are a perfectionist, you're setting yourself up for failure and all of the things that slide with failure down the slope as you plummet when you've gotten it wrong. And then you go into a familiar space of, see, I knew it. See, I'm not good enough. See, it always happens this way. See, I'm never going to make it. And the conversations that happen underneath. So when we set ourselves up to be perfectionists and we strive towards this perfectionism, which isn't possible, we'll never get it right, because we are actually looking for ways to get it wrong, because that's what we think is normal. So we get into overthinking. We get to thinking ourselves out of something. We never actually finish a project. We can't actually move forward. We don't take action. There's actually an addiction to staying in that cycle of, I can never completely finish a project, or the second I finish a project, I'm so worried about putting that project, that finished item, whatever that item is, out into the universe, because I know I'm going to get feedback that's not right. And then we look for all the feedback and all the proof that we got it wrong. Even when somebody says something good, we still look at it and say, see that as proof that we got it wrong. They didn't mean it. They're saying it because they have to. So perfectionism is one of the things I watch for when we're starting to work with clients, especially high-performing clients who are high performers in their regular life. They've accomplished many things, but they're still unsatisfied. They're still disappointed. They're still in a place of grief over it, even though they have all the accomplishments, because they think once they hit the accomplishment, then that's going to be okay. They're going to learn that they were good enough. But that perfectionism, that whomever it is, whether it's a mother, a parent, a teacher, somebody hanging in your subconscious somewhere telling you you're not good enough, that doesn't go away unless you process the underlying trauma that actually created this perfectionism response, thinking if you get it right all the time, then you'll be good enough and then you'll get the attention and the love that you seek. There's an addiction to the familiar space you have when you don't reach that perfection. And even when you do, where other people would be like, oh my God, that's perfect, that's awesome, that's incredible, you still haven't reached it because you still have this idea in your head that it could have been better. There's an addiction to that. It sets off chemical responses, physiological responses in the body. And then we go back to situations that put us in that same scenario so we can feel it again. Not because we enjoy it, but because we're so familiar with it. And familiarity, patterns, routines are what we feel safe in. All right, so we got numbing agents, being busy, chaos, perfectionism, and overthinking falls into that. And then number 5, there's an addiction to this concept of what we think being strong really means. And for a lot of us, that falls into this idea of not saying what we really mean because we really want people to guess what it is that we're thinking. So we hold back or we're afraid. So this idea of we don't actually speak our truth, we don't actually put this out there, we don't say what it is that we really want or we really mean. And some of this is reinforced by society. There's this idea that we watch these, rom-coms, and we watch these romance movies, and we watch these shows where people treat each other terribly. They're so mean to each other. I mean, how many rom-coms start out with people just being mean to each other? And then later it's because they discover they're really in love, and that's why they do it. He's pulling the ponytail of the girl he likes because we're mean to the people we like. Who came up with this as an okay thing? And what we do is we think, okay, we are okay with receiving bad behavior because someone really loves us. And we're not going to say we don't like it because we have to know underneath it's because they really like us, even though they're not telling us that. And then there's this idea that they have to guess what it is that we're thinking. So if we just expressed how we really felt and we told someone what we really needed and they gave us that thing, would it count? The idea is, I really wish my partner would tell me he loves me more. And if we had to say that to them and then they say, well, I love you, then it doesn't count. Because if they guessed, or we watch these shows where somebody asked someone to marry them and they came up with some brilliant, amazing gift and way to do it, which was all of the deep-seated things that the person really wanted in the first place, but they never expressed. This person's supposed to be a mind reader and do all of these magical things. But if we said it, then it wouldn't count somehow. Or we're really worried about hurting someone's feelings by saying who we really are, and therefore we hold back who we really are, we don't express who we really are, and we actually get that all stuck right here, which causes anxiety, which causes energetically thyroid challenges and hormone imbalances. When we're not expressing who we really are and we think we need to hold back on who we really are. We can't be transparent. We can't be true to who we are because we might be thrown out of the group, out of the tribe. We're not going to be taken care of. We're not going to be supported. We're not going to be cared for. We're not going to be protected. So when we don't express who we really are, we don't surface that and show it to other people, we actually won't attract people into our lives who would be the perfect people for us to be around, who would help support our natural state of being. So there's this addiction of this idea that we have to hold back and we have to feel bad and we can't express who we are, because if we express who we are, then those people might not love us anymore. And maybe you have evidence to this effect. Maybe you have proof. But what I can tell you with certainty is when people truly express who they are and they let themselves love themselves for who they really are, it's amazing how the people in their life either shift and or they start attracting more of the people they feel incongruency with, they feel they connect with, than they ever did before, because now they are out showing the world, putting that vibration out there of who they really are. And that anxiety of I have to hide who I really am, which then starts causing problems with adrenal function, causing problems with thyroid, causing problems with hormone balance, causing problems digestively, goes away. And we can just be. So the 5 hidden and not so hidden addictions that are causing these issues, that are causing these imbalances, that are causing menopause to feel harder, that are causing you to lose sleep literally, are the numbing agents like alcohols, drugs, food, sugar, things that we try to numb ourselves from rather than allowing ourselves to feel and express, to being busy all the time. Number 3, chaos and chaotic environments. We get addicted to that rush, that energy. Number 4, perfectionism, which is very tightly tied to overthinking. And number 5, being strong, or the idea of I can't really express who I really am, so I'm going to suck it up and I'm going to walk it off and I'm not going to express who I really am because I want other people to guess, but then I'm going to silently suffer because of it. These are all causing problems with our identity, our connection. It's triggering old trauma wounds, or maybe not so old that they're just sitting around and constantly being triggered. And when our body doesn't feel safe, when we don't feel incongruent with who we are, it will have a physiological response in the body. So you cannot separate these things. You cannot just look at a thyroid problem and say, oh, it's just a thyroid problem that just came out of nowhere and has nothing to do with anything. So when you hear someone saying your stress is imbalanced, your body is not managing stress well, I want you to look at it from a physical, mental, energetic, and emotional standpoint. If you are stressing the body physiologically, you are going to see an emotional response. If you have an emotional issue going on, you're going to have an energetic connection that's just dysfunctional. If you are thinking things over and over and over and aren't connecting to who you really are, and you're giving yourself a hard time for not being perfect all the time, your body's going to show up physiologically. They're all connected. You cannot separate them. You are not just a physical being separate from your energetic being, separate from your emotional being, separate from who you are and what you think. They all are tied and woven together. You pull one thread, you're affecting the rest. So if you're trying to manage, fix an issue with the thyroid, you're seeing it go out of balance, and you're doing all the right things, you're eating the right foods, and you're doing the right stuff, and you're taking the right supplements, and you're doing all the things, and you're not seeing the response, the body's trying to tell you there's more to the story. Let's look at the trauma responses. Let's look at what your body sees as patterns. Let's look at what's going on underneath the surface, energetically, emotionally, mentally. And if this is resonating with you, I want you to just take a deep breath, know you're in the right place, and you have 2 options right now. You can, if you'd like, make an appointment with me. Let me give you the link for that. You can pop yourself into my calendar. We'll have a really short conversation just to see if we're the right people to help you with this, and what our process really looks like, and if it's the right time for you to do that process. You can go to nourish123.com/heal, and you can find a time on my calendar and we'll have a conversation. The other thing that you can do, and I'm just putting this out there, and it's sometime this week, we're going to have access to being able to even get involved with this next event that we're doing. But in October, October 25th and 6th, I'm going to be doing an event. It's a very limited space event for high performing women who just do not have the time to burn out. It is called Recharge. It's going to be in person in Scottsdale because I am so missing the in-person events. And I know I can do so much more to help people in a short period of time when I do events that are immersive, that I can really have you and have your attention physically with me in the same room with the other women who are attending. And I can show you tools and techniques, and I can take you through a process to have you go through and really look at what you're experiencing and how do you dissolve the underlying blocks that are in your way that are stopping you from achieving the resilience and the life experience that you should be having at this point. What's in your way? What do you not know is blocking you, especially if you feel like you're doing all the right things and not getting the results that you want the way you want to? So I'm doing a 2-day event, the 25th and 6th of October in Scottsdale, Arizona. It is a limited space event. There is only space for 50 women. And I know I've already gotten emails from women who are asking to take these spaces. Sometime this week, I'm going to be putting the information out there where you can go in and actually lock down your space for this event. But again, it's only 2 days. It is only $97 for the 2 days. I am not making any money off this event. It is going to the amazing vendors that are going to be handling all the food for us for the event and all of the other gifts and prizes and amazing things that you're going to have during this event. But I really just want to get women back in a room, do an in-person event, show you all the amazing ways you can be even better and more amazing and more resilient than you have been in possibly years. And have you experience in an immersive event how to get the recharge that you need. If you are interested in this, shoot me an email or shoot my assistant an email over at support@nourish123.com. It's nourish123.com. So support@nourish123.com and say that you have interest in the event. We will make sure that you get access to taking spaces earlier than everybody else. Because the second I put this out there, a lot of our friends are going to be telling and practitioners and colleagues are going to be putting this out to their people as well because they know that they need this experience as well. But I'm going to be with you for 2 full days in Scottsdale during this immersive event, showing you how you can take tools, use them, and dissolve potentially decades worth of underlying blocks and trauma and addictions, the way we talked about them today, to release you and be able to surface and go beyond where you are right now and anywhere you think you really could have been without this. All right, so the recharge event for high-performing women who just don't have the time to burn out, because a lot of you are on the burnout track and either don't realize it or know you are and just don't know how to stop it. This event's for you. So if you're interested in that event, support@nourish123.com. Shoot us an email and we'll make sure you get on the list first to get a ticket for that. And if you are like, hey, I just want to bypass all that, I'm not waiting till October, I want to have this conversation with you right now, go to nourish123.com/heal, HEAL, and we can have a quick 20-30-minute conversation to see where you are, where you want to be with your health and your resilience. And if what I do is going to be the bridge to help you get there faster, cleaner, more easily, with less effort, then we can have that conversation too. All right. Well, you have a good rest of your Monday. I will be back next Monday and I will talk to you then.